Okay, he's going to try another headset. Sounds good. Hello and welcome, everyone. We have an extra chaotic and exciting episode of ScriptChat today. I'm Tech Cherry, your host. It is the 26th of March. We try to do this every Sunday. Sometimes we have to cancel because we don't have anything to show, but every once in a while you get lucky and you find somebody that doesn't know how much of a nobody you are and thinks it's worth their time to come on the show. And this week we got FuNeS. FuNeS13. I don't know really much about him at all. He's a new scripter, but I'm looking forward to learning. See, let's go into the face cam here. FuNeS loves Socotra, you guys. And he has made some variations of Socotra, and he's got one other map that he wants to show today. So we'll be talking about FuNeS's creations. I sure hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, but he's still working on getting connected to the voice channel. So he can't correct me yet. Before we really jump into that too much, just a quick refresher of what Socotra is, and then we'll talk about some news for random app scripters out there. Some really excellent news, actually, we can get in. So guys, remember that Socotra is the one where you're using up like a quarter of the area of the map, maybe, and it is known for its chaos. Oh shoot, I can't see the chat either. I'm sorry about that, guys. I guess it's just one of those unlucky broadcasts where you have these really thoughtful and insightful commentary, and I can't do anything about it. I can't do anything about it. Look at this. Look at this. Look at these rocks blocking it. So here you go. It's probably not a quarter of the area. It's probably more like half of the area. Slightly more than half. But you can see that it's sort of offset from these original borders of the map, and it's sort of restricted into this little arena of sorts, I guess. But there's forests out here. The forests are kind of they're more toward the edge of the map. It's like arena, but there are little pockets, and you can move your villagers into these pockets, and you can wall them off for a little bit more safety. So it's arena-like, but it's not exactly like arena in that respect. And of course, here the player lands. Now, of course, the player lands could be anywhere. We hit and generate again. You'll see that it's random placement. You got to scout to find your opponent, but there's not as much space. So I mean, who knows? Who knows where your opponent's going to be? Got 5 relics. They're pretty close. Everything's pretty close. There's only 1 boar. I think a couple of extra zebra at least, and 6 sheep in the berries. And laming is very common on this map. It's very common to send your villager walking across the map to build some palisade walls around your enemy's resources so he can't take them. If you play this map against a yo-yo dude, you will never be the same. He loves to lame on this map. Okay, so I think FuNeS will be joining pretty soon. Oh, I need to drag him back into the TV voice channel. Can you hear me now, FuNeS?
If I can, you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I got to turn you up. Welcome, FuNeS, to ScriptChat. Really appreciate you joining us.
Yeah, no, very, very welcome for you to have me here.
So if you guys can't hear FuNeS very well, let me know. We've had problems with that in the past. However, I think I figured it out, which is basically to turn people up in this volume mixer OBS here. So if FuNeS is too loud or not loud enough, let me know. But FuNeS, welcome to ScriptChat. Where are you from?
I'm from Mexico. Actually, just like 10 minutes south of San Diego.
Oh, okay. You're from Mexico. Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. Are you familiar with Combi then? I believe that they are an Age of Empires clan that is based in Mexico.
Yes, they are. I think they're the top clan in Mexico. I know some of them. I usually don't play with them. I'm not that good of a player to be able to play with them, but I know them. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we were just showing off Socotra here. My understanding is you're a relatively new scripter, maybe been doing it for a couple weeks, and you'd made some modifications to Socotra that you wanted to show everybody. And
Yeah.
depending on where you want to go with it, I can send folks. If you give me a location, if you've got like a mod or something, I can put it in the description of ScriptChat so people know how to find your maps. If you want to upload your maps to our community GitHub repository, that is also a possibility. I would like to play on them and test them though, because they did look interesting. So I suppose
Yeah.
we'll get right into it then. Let's see here.
Yeah, the only thing is that so we're having trouble connecting with my PC. I have to connect on my phone on Discord, so I won't be able to share my screen or play.
Okay.
So I don't know if I sent you the files. I don't know if you wanna share
Yep.
them.
I am streaming this now on YouTube, and I've got a Socotra brought up. Tell us about this map. What are you going for on this map? I'm sharing it on my screen. I even disabled my cubes mod because if folks come on the
Okay.
show, I want their maps to look good. So what is this madness? Tell us about what you're going for with this map.
Okay. Well, at Socotra, well, I have been. Let me tell you a little background because you're probably gonna need it to understand what I did here. In my clan, my Age of Empires clan, we're always picking on each other, and we're always trying to find different ways to play Age of Empires. And just a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about it would be fun to have kind of like mixed maps. And so I started investigating, and I came up with random map scripting. I knew about it about like a year and a half ago, but I probably never really focused on it until just recently. So I found the code for Arena and for Socotra, and then I decided to mix them together. So what you would see on the map is you would see the Socotra circle of the map, but inside the two players would have palisade wall instead of stone wall. And then on the edge of the map, instead of stone, you would see kind of like a long forest that goes all around the circle.
Mm-hmm.
And then to make things interesting, one of my clanmates decided that what if there was wolves on the center of the map? And then for some reason I complied and I added a lot of wolves on the center of the map. So it's if you want to go out with your villagers out of your palisades wall, you will have a lot of issues with that.
So have you guys had the chance to test this yet? Any idea how this plays out? I'm trying to imagine. I don't know how much feudal aggression there could be. You could go scouts, right? But it's so easy for your opponent to wall off to the wood line that they want to take in the back. I don't know if scouts get in. I say scouts because the wolves will not attack scouts unless the scout attacks them first. Or maybe this is a cast castle kind of map. Did you guys test it, or what did you see?
We haven't actually tested it. I think I did this. I think it was last week. But long story short, we are a 21-year-old clan, and we are around our mid-30s right now. So we all have families. We all work, and we don't have that much time to play as a clan together. Some of them they do play like every day, but not all of them. So we have been struggling to find a time where we would be able to play together this map.
Now, is this map compatible with more than 1v1? Have you tried it out on other sizes? Do you want me to show it on other sizes?
I've tried it in different sizes. Yes, I'm I'm not sure. Like I have made the AI play on themselves on different sizes, and it does generate the map correctly. But that's on my side. I'm not sure if maybe on your side it will break something. But I'm guessing if it shouldn't break, it should work.
Yeah, I just did a generation for it on medium size, 4 players, looks good. Generated again on the 6-player size. It looks like fun. It looks like there's a lot of stuff going on. Seems like
Yeah.
it actually looks a little bit better in the larger sizes too, because there's a little bit more space, perhaps.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep. the one thing that I did test it out and it didn't work was I think I was playing I think it was Regicide or Wonder Race. It didn't work on those maps, on those types of gameplays.
Regicide or Wonder Race? Well, for
Yeah,
Regicide, so when you tested on Regicide, were you instantly defeated at the beginning?
I think so because I probably didn't put the code where you would have the castle and the king.
Yep. Yeah, all you need for Regicide is you need a conditional that says if Regicide, create object king, set place for every player, and find closest. And that's the bare
Yeah.
minimum of what you need for Regicide. You can actually make a map Regicide without the player selecting the option in the lobby, which
Hmm.
can be interesting for a map that's like enforced to be Regicide Fortress. But I'm kind of I'm confused when I look at this map. I'm not sure if it's going to be a very aggressive map. Certainly, like for team games, the wolves are in the middle guarding extra resources. So maybe it's
Yeah.
possible for one flank to pressure another flank more effectively. Um, the wolves
That's
make it so that it might be harder to get to your opponent and therefore make fast castle a dominant strategy. But on the other hand, there's so little space that I don't know if you want to wait too much longer to go in and take map control and get these resources, because it would be nice to have these resources, access to them. It's a
yeah.
lot of wolves
That,
though.
that, that's probably the reason why I changed from stone walls to palaces wall. Because the stone walls would be harder to take down.
Now let me ask you this: if you could make the players' walls like intersect with the forest, is that something that you would be interested in knowing how to do or figuring out how to do if that were possible?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, because I know you kind of got
You mean
these boxes,
like
but
when you play? You mean like when you play in the map enclosed? That you have the forest in the back, and then you have your walls on the front.
well, enclosed has a ring of unbuildable rock terrain in the front, and you kind of have to wall behind it. You can't really wall to your gold, which is sort of the point of the
Okay.
map. But there is another map called Clown Arena where it's actually arena, but you don't have stone walls in the back. You only have the stone walls where you need them in the front, so you don't have to delete the stone walls in the back, which is kind of a neat
Well,
trick. So
yeah.
I wasn't sure if that was something that was desirable or if you wanted the players like do you want more space in the middle or do you want the space behind the players?
Greeton?
I think it would be better to have space on the middle.
Hmm.
That I would definitely want to learn that.
Okay. Yeah, that's something that we might be able to help you out with. I think this is a fun concept though. And what's really nice about this, and I just wanted to make sure that I say this, and I'm not trying to flatter you or anything. And maybe this was a complete accident that you did this by. But one of the big weaknesses of Socotra, I think the reason why a lot of people don't like it, is because if somebody, has some good luck and gets ahead and like walls in your resources, it can make it very difficult to come back, right? To
Yeah.
make a comeback. So when you have your resources starting out inside of these palisade walls, they can't they can't lame them, right? They can't come and build a bunch of buildings or
Right.
walls around your resources and prevent you from doing what you need to do. So there's a certain guarantee that you're going to have access to certain types of resources, which I think is good for the game.
Yes.
Okay, and you got the boars and the sheeps, the houses. Did you want the houses to be outside the walls or inside the walls? Did you not really care? Um, let's take another look at this
I
here.
I probably didn't think about the houses going outside or inside the walls. I think it would be better to have them inside the walls.
Okay, yeah, we might be able to help you out with that too. Just thinking about this and how this was made, and we could make sure that we talk about all of your maps here and respect your time. I don't want to ask you too many questions about it. Um, so why Socotra? Just like really aggressive. Let me ask you actually something else here. You do realize that if they chop through these trees, they can get out here and build a dock, right? Is
Yeah.
that intentional? Do you want them to be able to do that? Like if Pocket goes fast Imperial Age and uses onagers to cut through here and make docks and then come around with bombard cannons, is that something that you want, or is it just something that you're like you couldn't find a way to put the rocks to block it? Because I think both could be kind of good ideas.
Yeah, that was my intention. Remove the rocks and put forest so that they can go around the map with naval ships.
That could be a lot of
I
fun.
probably, yeah, I probably should have just like made less forest around the map, so there would be something faster to achieve.
Yeah, that could be a lot of fun, especially if maybe you could put some islands out here too. Wouldn't that be fun if there were like bonus islands out here so that they have kind of an incentive to go for it? And that'll be the great
Yeah,
question is, do you focus on the resources in the middle so that you don't get pushed off the island, or do you try to slowly, like balancing that act between fighting over the middle and also maybe getting access to other resources out here or other opportunities to attack out here? I think it adds a
yeah,
lot of complexity to Socotra, though. So I'm really grateful that you came on to show it.
yeah, yeah.
Good.
I like that. I like that as an idea.
So, is there anything else that you want to tell us about this map before we look at the Nomad version that you made?
Well, uh, Socotra, as you mentioned, is lame your resources or your enemy resources map, and we wanted we wanted to make it a little bit different than how normally we would play it. So we came up with this idea, but we would still want some kind of lamest thing to go with. For example, the wall from the center, or the ability to go around the map in a ship and try to go from behind or something like that. So we haven't really tested that much. I tested it a couple of times, but like I say, I'm not that much of a good player, so I wouldn't count my testing as an official testing. So yeah, I'm pretty sure it will be fun to play.
All right, great. Let's move on to the next one. Yeah, that's always a very important thing is to have access to skilled players to help you test it, because those guys are going to be able to find exploits maybe that you won't think about, um,
Yeah,
that I don't think about. People are pretty creative and they can come up with some pretty crazy stuff. All right, let's see if we can find this other one here. It is, I got Socotra, and let's see. The name of yours is
the other one is Socotra.
Socotra. There we go. Thank you.
Yeah,
Um, I love random maps, as you can tell. I have a ton of them in my list. All right, well, let's go down to tiny size here, and number of players 2. We'll hit generate here. You got fish. What's going on with the fish?
yeah. So what I wanted to do was kind of like simulate Nomad, but in the Socotra map. And
Okay.
then the folks at my clan, they say, hey, but let's start with more villagers. So I think you start with either 8 or 10 villagers around the map. And another particular thing about this is that there is no 5-minute peace treaty at the beginning. If you start the game, there will be no protection at the beginning of it.
Yeah. Well,
So,
if you're starting with 8 to 10 villagers on a map like this, I mean, the map is basically going to be explored, right? From the
yeah,
start, because they're going to have so much vision. You're going to be walking around to place your starting town center. Chances are the map will
yeah.
be explored. Are you okay with that, or is there some workaround maybe that you thought about? I mean, what's your opinion? Is 8 to 10 villagers a good number? Do you want fewer? What's in your mind? What's the ideal number of villagers to start with on Socotra. Because on the one hand, if you have more villagers, the action can start faster. But on the other hand, you have more knowledge of what's going on, which could make it easier to lame your opponent. So where do you stand on that compromise?
Personally, in this type of maps, Nomad and with the combination of the Socotra map, I would say that no more than 5 villagers would be enough. But the reason why I put 10 on them was because of like I was talking to my clan when I was creating this, and they told me at first that they wanted 12, but I took it down to 10 because I think that's too excessive. And in their minds, no peace treaty at the beginning and having that much villagers at the start, and if you see some of them spawn right next to the opponent villagers, so that in their mind that would encourage them to fight each other at the beginning, and that's kind of like what they miss from the Nomad for a couple of months ago when they brought out the peace treaty thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's for me, five villagers is enough, but I was kind of trying to please my clan with what they wanted.
Well, I don't know. I think most people would kind of be afraid of the villager fights on Nomad. They just want to play a proper game of Age of Empires that isn't decided by whoever has the better villager micro at the beginning. Some of these I get villagers, and some of them I don't. So we'll have to help you out with that potentially. I'm actually getting them now. It looks like. I wonder if the villagers have some forest avoidance. It looks like they're avoiding the forest by a large amount. So depending on how much forest there is, it can determine the number of villagers. One of the options that I wanted to present to you is we can actually make it so that you start with ox wagons, and when you delete the ox wagon, you get 3 or 4 or however many villagers you want. So that actually might prove useful to you. And the reason for that advantage is because you can give the ox wagons something like insane, like 1,000 health, so they're never going to get killed, right? So you don't have to, and you can make them slightly faster than villagers, so you don't have to worry about taking fights with villagers if you don't want to. And you can also adjust their vision so that you don't have to worry about the map essentially starting out as explored. So you put the ox wagon down, and then when you can move it around until you get to the desired location for your town center, and you delete it, and then instead of like a conic that spawns the dismounted conic, you can make this ox wagon spawn 3 villagers, and then they can start building your town center. If that's something that you want to try, we've done that, implemented that on another Nomad map. We've tested it. We know that the mechanic works, but we haven't actually played that mechanic very much. But we're welcome to try it if you want. We'll share the code with you if you want to give it a try.
Yeah, sure. I mean, like you said, it's only been like a couple of weeks that I really dive into random map scripting. So anything that you can tell me, I would really appreciate it.
Sure. Yeah, we can help you out with that. Always trying to help more people learn random map scripting. I think the Age of Empires world needs more random map scripts and more random map scripters. The other thing I was going to ask you about is, so what's the deal with this coastline here? Nobody's going to be able to get out and build a dock anytime soon, unless maybe you were planning on having a villager start on this beach so it can build a dock and then maybe take the shore fish, and then the dock can build fish. What's your plan for fishing here in combining Nomad with Socotra?
So I believe that I made the forest edge a little shorter. So my clanmates, they know that I made the map, so they know that it has forest at the end. So one of them had the idea that, or had the thought that he would put his town center on the edge, and he would start chopping the forest to the coastline, and then he would build a dock to go around the map. And there are fishes there, so he would use them as resources as well.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it'll take forever to get through all of these trees, right? So you'll
Yeah.
probably, the game might even be over before then, who knows? But we'll see. We'll see. I think it's a great idea, right? Because on Socotra, on traditional Socotra, you've got that ring of rocks around the outside, and there's absolutely no potential to use all that extra space out there, which I think is kind of a tragedy. I know that makes it so that
Yeah.
players fight over the middle more, but it's just kind of like a lost
Hmm.
opportunity. And I think you can have the best of both worlds, where you can have some action in the middle, and then you can have players doing stuff on the outside, you know? So,
Yeah. Yeah. You know what it would be like a good idea, and I just came up with it.
what?
Instead of having like the ring of forest all around the map, just have like small chunks of forest in some places, and then empty spaces on the other, on the between them.
Yeah, that's possible. They could just walk directly out, and they can
Yeah.
then build their dock there. If you want them to be able to get to the wood immediately, and then if something did go sour with the dock, they could run their villager to the middle. That could be pretty aggressive. Because I think that's a big weakness of nomads sometimes. Is there's like that one guy that's got half the map to himself on the other side, and nobody's over there, and he just
Yeah.
has a free boom, and then he runs in with 80 paladins while you're fighting off a tower rush or something, and he kills you. Um,
Yeah.
that sort of disparity in people's situations where somebody gets all this space and resources, and then meanwhile somebody else is tower rushing their opponent and like fighting with villagers and such. That big difference can make nomads seem a little bit unfair. But if it's cramped like this, then it's probably equally unfair for everybody, right? So
Yeah.
you could have a pretty aggressive game from the start. It's something to try. But I like how you have lots of resources on this map. I think that's very important for Nomad. With Nomad, there's no guarantee, right, that you're going to get more than one gold or more than one stone. So it's got to last you for a while. Um,
Yeah.
and that's why these clumps are so large. No wolves, which is smart. No wolves at all.
Yeah.
We might have to work on the fairness of this boar spawn. It's a bunch of boars here. But overall, I think this is great. It's a good concept here. I hit generate a few more times. I'll have to help you with the reliability of the villager spawns. All right, here they are. They sometimes don't spawn properly. So we'll have to see where you're coming from with that one, see what we can do to help you out. Um, so
Yeah. I think
is this
there are
supposed
two.
sorry, go ahead, FuNES.
I think that there are two villager generation code in there. So maybe that's making that spawn a little edgy.
Yeah, we can help you out with that, FuNES. Like the villager spawn on Nomad is probably the easiest spawn that you can get. So we'll see if we can help you out with that one. Um, so yeah, maybe one of the villager spawns is messing with the other spawn or something's probably happening that's preventing the villagers from spawning. I'm not sure. Are these trees placed as objects? Yeah, it looks like they are. All right. Anyway, and then you had a Lombardia style map that you wanted to show.
Yeah, that's still a work in progress. The first time that I generated the map, they all line up well, but then after the second one, they all just messed up. So what I did on this one is I kind of like I kind of had this crazy idea that it would be fun or maybe not to have walls around the four team players. And like I said, the first time that I generated the map after I added the walls to the code, they all line up perfectly, and it was so perfect that it was kind of like a team wall. So the wall from player 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they would be merged together into one big wall. Instead of having each one their own wall, they will have like one wall altogether.
Hmm.
And like I said, the first time that I generated, it worked well. But after that, they all start on a corner, and they're all like kind of like they're not lined up. They're kind of like in a Y position or an X position. It's weird. I don't know. I actually don't know how to fix that.
Interesting. So it looks like, yeah, they're just kind of scattered around randomly. Are you using
Yeah.
circle placement for these guys, perhaps?
I'm not sure.
We can pop open the hood and see. Uh, see how your starting configuration is set here. So they are grouped by team, and the AI info map type is Arabia. It's probably not what you want. You probably want Arena.
Right.
Let's see. Create player lands. Okay, so no circle placement. What happens if we do circle placement? 30 and 0. I don't remember if circle placement works for grouped by team, but I think it does. Well, that looks, actually we should keep the seed. Let's do another generation. We'll keep the seed and we'll comment and uncomment the code. All right, so we'll keep this seed, whatever this seed is. This is the approximate circular placement here, and comment that out, hit save, and we'll generate it again, and we'll see if it looks like this or if it looks crazy. Oh, it looks the same. So circle placement is not doing anything. So I think this is the pattern that you're talking about, right? Where they're kind of in a circular shape, but then sometimes they're just randomly out. So what makes Lombardia
Yeah.
work here is grouped by team, and this basically pulls the players closer together. It's kind of an old
Yep.
school thing. If we did random placement, then circular placement would work. I know that. So we did random placement. We'll uncomment this, save it. So that should make a perfectly circular arrangement of players. Still
I think
doesn't look very.
that's the kind of knowledge that I'm still like missing.
Nope, doesn't look like that worked either. Let's see. Now, do you have access to Zetness's random map scripting guide? That should really help you out.
So it has helped me a lot. And there's also on another map that I created. I know that I don't know how to pronounce his name, but it's I think it's Michael. That he has like an Excel file where you would put like conditions and it will generate the code so that you can like put direct placement of the players on the map. So that helped me a lot with another map that I was doing a couple of weeks ago as well.
Yeah, I'm not sure who you're talking about with that, but that could be pretty helpful here. So the first argument is a radius. It's a percentage of the map width. Yeah, that's good. And then the other stuff is the variance. It's used in create player lands. It ignores any borders. If used for create land, it'll. So maybe we'll comment out that border fuzziness. Seems to help. That one is it's not helped though. Let's see. It's probably something silly. Players are positioned in a circle oval with some variation. This is the default and will apply even if you do not type it. Distance between team members is double the base size used in create player lands. So that's for grouped by team, and that's how Lombardia works. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff in here.
Yeah.
But we could work on that off stream. I think I get the idea.
Yeah.
All right. So why? Let me see if I can ask why. I'm more interested in why. Why? Yeah, you're right. Sometimes it works great. Sometimes it doesn't. We'll have to dig into that. See if we can figure that out. Why do you want Lombardia with players that start with stone walls? What advantage does that offer over Fortress?
To be honest, I think that for this one specifically, I just wanted to know if I was going to be able to merge two maps or two things of two different maps into one. I don't think that I see any advantage or disadvantage with having walls. Maybe if the two team players decide to boom, the four players can boom instead of having just one or the pockets boom. Well, actually, not pockets because they're all together. Um, so for this one, I think it's just me trying to show off my recently acquired skills.
Well, if we did a generation of Fortress, we'd get something quite similar, right?
Yeah.
We would get this circular arrangement of walled players with small forests scattered around, and the players are relatively far apart. So it looks quite similar, and it looks almost more like what you're going for. I'm not sure how what you're going for differs from Fortress is basically what I'm asking. What do you want to do that's different from Fortress? Maybe you could say, I'd like the players to be a little bit closer together, because Fortress doesn't really have the ability to do that necessarily.
I do wanted that, like them close together and then having like a frontal attack on the enemy.
So let me go back to Lumberina here. I have one more question for you about this one, and that is with regards to the hills and the walls here. Sometimes the walls go up big hills like this. Is that what you is that intentional, or is that just kind of incidental? What do you want walls going up hills like this, or do you want the hills to avoid the walls?
I think that it would be best to the walls to avoid the hills.
Okay, and why do you say that?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. Well, actually, to be honest, I'm not quite sure what would be best. Okay. Because like I just wanted the team wall to be together. I didn't consider the hills when I was thinking of that.
Okay. Yeah, we can help you out with that. I agree with you actually on that, and I'll tell you why. Because if you're, playing a game of Fortress or whatever, let's assume that we could get the proper, which I'm sure we can. We're not going to do it right now. But let's assume that we could get the proper arrangement for these players and we could get the team walls working and everything like that. Let's say that yellow over here, he walks across the map, he comes up on this hill, and he builds a castle right here on gray, right? And now his castle has a hill advantage against this wall right here. So his castle can fire into this wall, and it'll do 25% more damage each time it fires. He can destroy this wall more easily, and Gray has a harder time pushing that castle back because he has to go uphill against it. So this is why you don't really see hills on Arena. It's why Arena is a flat map, is because they don't want somebody walking across the map and doing a castle drop and putting their castle on a hill and being too difficult to remove. So
Right.
this is pretty easy to adjust though. What we would do is we would set the players on the teams by the same zone, and then we would have that zone grow around the players, and that land would be of a specific type, and then that land we would not elevate, and then we would elevate everything else around it. So because we wouldn't be elevating the player lands, and because the player lands would extend outside of the walls slightly, it would mean that all the hills would be like out here where nobody cares. So that's how a map like Fortress works, for example. If you look at Fortress carefully, you'll see that there are no hills on these walls, and there aren't any hills nearby. There are some hills in the center, but they are not close enough. I mean, maybe this one right here, but they're not really close enough to challenge the walls, or to give a castle drop additional damage against the walls. Because even though these all look like different terrains now, when this map,
Yeah.
in the initial stages of creating this map, before the terrain work is done, before the forests are put down or anything like that, this terrain around this town center, around all the town centers, is a different type of terrain. And when the elevation command is given, it's only targeting terrain that's far away from that, like more so in the middle. It
Hmm.
cannot target the player land terrain. So it's just kind of a neat trick that I picked up.
That's that's great. I would definitely like to explore that option.
So if you have the time now, assuming that you don't have anything else that you want to talk about, is there anything else that we want to add about Lombarina?
Uh, Probably not. Like I said, this one's a work in progress, and there's too much that it needs to be worked on.
Yep, still working on it. I like the concept. I think it'll be fun once you get it all set and ready. Um, in that case, if you have the time, what I thought I would do is I would make a very simple Socotra map. Probably take 15 minutes, and I'll show you the basics of what makes Socotra work. And if you want, you can hang around in the voice channel and ask any questions. It'll sort of be part of Tech's lesson. But if you have to go and you want to watch the recording later, even if you don't want to watch the recording later, that's fine too. But I'm going to show at the very least, I'm going to show the audience how to capture the very basic Socotra concept. So,
Yeah. Well, if you don't mind, I would like to stay. I'll just probably mute myself. And if I have questions, I'll just hop in.
yeah, I can't. Unfortunately, I can't read the chat right now. So, if you have any questions, just go off of mute and let me know. And sorry for all those guys in chat who are not in the voice channel that may have a huge slew of questions but can't answer them because YouTube is not letting me read the chat right now. So I think what I did was I called it Socotra, sample Socotra. There we go. So it's literally just an empty map. And that's fine. That is absolutely fine. So we are going to start out, and we're just going to make a very simple Socotra map, you guys. You can add all kinds of detail to it and all sorts of different terrain work and objects, but I just want to show how the structure of Socotra is achieved, because I think, FuNeS did a good job. A lot of times when you're getting started with random map scripting and you copy over a script from somewhere else, it is chock full of things that you do not want or need. So since FuNeS is from Mexico, we're actually going to do this with jungle. I was originally going to make like an Arctic Socotra, but we're actually going to make a jungle Socotra because I think that palm trees are more common in Mexico than snowy pine trees. So I got a sample script up. I got sample Socotra right here. I have gone in and I put in player setup, the land generation, elevation, terrain, objects, etc. And we're just going to come up here and we're going to add a comment that says sample Socotra. And we're just going to do a ScriptChat demonstration by Tech Chariot. And today's date is the 26th of March, 2023. Okay. And we're going to do random placement here. And we are going to do behavior version 1. This will make our lands a little bit more accurate. It's the upgraded version of land generation. You don't have to do it, but it makes it a little bit more accurate, which I appreciate. So behavior version 1, we're going to define L as 32. And this is basically defining our land generation command. It can be kind of confusing, but I don't like to type create land all the time. And actually, in some of my bigger scripts, it can take up a lot of time. This isn't going to be a big script, though. This is going to be a tiny script. So the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to create player lands. And these create player lands, we got these squiggly brackets here. Yeah, something like that. And we want to be able to minimize that possible. Yeah, that'll be nice. Okay, and let us do like a base size, maybe 12. No. Land percent 100. Okay. And by the way, in our land terrain, we're going to have, let's set our base terrain here. Our base terrain is going to be jungle. Okay. And our created player lands are going to be grass 2. So we'll put that in here. Terrain type, or maybe base terrain. Terrain type. Let's try terrain type first. And let's put dirt to make sure that we're testing whether or not it works. Okay. And then let's go borders. We need to constrain this by borders. So we're gonna go left border. We're gonna go maybe let's gonna constrain it by 60. Right border. We'll constrain by 60. And then top border. Constrained by 60, and bottom border will also constrain by 60. So what this does is this basically looks across the map and it says you can only go 60% toward the top border. The remaining 40% of the map edge length, you have to stay away from the left border. So let me just give this in a sketch real quick. Paint. And I'll sketch where the borders are. I got my little cheat sheet here to help me keep track of it all. But imagine that you have this diamond-shaped mini-map, right? Okay. A very, very, very badly sketched diamond-shaped mini-map. Okay, but that's the idea. So the top border is here. Top. Oops. This is the bottom. This is the right border. And this is the left border here. Okay? So when we say top border 60, what we mean is that we come across from the bottom border, or actually rather from the top border, and we avoid that by 60% of the map length. So that means that the land has to spawn somewhere in this area, in here. And when you do that for all of the other borders, you eventually get someplace in the middle where it can spawn. Now 60 is actually a little bit too much now that I'm drawing it out and sketching it, but maybe we do like 20 or 30 and they're all like outside in these ranges so that when they all intersect, there's just that area in the middle. Okay, and that's what we're going for, and that will make sure that all these player lands form that circle in the center of the map. So let's put 30 in here, and we'll see how that looks. So our base terrain is going to be jungle, and we're going to be putting a big patch of dirt right in the middle of that jungle, and that's where we need to start out. So we got that all saved. We don't have any elevation, don't care. Don't have any terrain, don't care, no objects. We just want to make sure we can get that basic shape working. So let's hit go, and we'll see what happens. Okay, so as you can see, we've got jungle occupying the base terrain, and we've got this section in the middle that is just dirt. Now this is an 8-player map size, and if we compare this to regular Socotra, I think this is a little bit too small and a little bit too aggressive. So we'll come over here and we'll adjust this to 20 and 20, and because this is a jungle, we want to make this grassy and wet and swampy. So we're going to change terrain type to grass 2, which is a very lush version of the grass. And we'll check to make sure that this is the right size. So let's hit generate here. And it'll think for a second. Actually, it'll think for a little while. Think for so long I have a chance to get a drink here. All right, excellent. So anyway, you can mess around with those numbers. You cannot save it as a variable, unfortunately. You know, maybe 25 is a little bit more appropriate. But what's the next thing that we need here? Well, if we want to have a Socotra map, right? We need these. Oh, let's do one more thing actually, just for for the sake of like visualizing what's going on here, because we're creating these player lands and they're growing. They're trying to occupy 100% of the map here. But you can't actually see what they are. You have to have these player lands. They have to exist. You may not be able to see them, but they have to exist. So let's come over here into object generation, and we'll say create object town center. Okay, town center, and then we will tab that in. We'll do set place for every player and find closest, just like that. So just so that you guys can see, and we'll also adjust this to, I think, 25%. It's probably a little bit better avoidance, just because you guys are going to like what I'm going to do next. So we'll hit generate here after saving, and you guys will be able to see the arrangement of the town centers. They're going to all be sort of in that circular pattern. I don't think circle placement works with this because it avoids the border restrictions. So there we go. Let me just check circle placement again, actually, because I would like circle radius. There we go. Okay, so it says 0 percentage of map width. Ignores any specified borders when placing the land origins, but land growth will still be constrained by the borders. Okay, so that's good. So let's add circle radius here to make sure that these players are in the correct circle shape. That's good to know. It's a very, very handy tool. Circle radius, and let's do like a circle radius of like, I don't know, 20 and 0. So that the first number is the percentage of the map edge, and the second number is the variation. So now when we hit go, this should be in a perfectly circular shape, but the land will still kind of grow out from where the players are, and that will obey the borders just fine. So we hit generate here, and man, this is really taking its time. And sure enough, we get that perfect circular shape. That's what we want, right? Now, we don't want a nice clear edge like this. We want this to kind of be like jagged, right? We want the players to be able to maybe come into a little pocket and build a lumber camp in here and be safe. So to achieve that jaggedness, we're going to have to use an argument called border fuzziness. So border fuzziness with, I think, 2 Z's. Oh, come on. Okay, it's the default is 20. It's anywhere from 0 to 100. 0 causes land growth to ignore the borders entirely. We do not want that. Then 100 means it's perfectly respected. So what we can do is we can lower this number. So right now, since we're not specifying anything, it's using 20. We can put things lower than 20 in to get a more jagged feel here. So let's copy this argument, okay? And we're going to create some very fuzzy borders. So we got those borders in here, and maybe we'll go 10, just to sort of illustrate. Actually, let's go 100 first to illustrate what a perfectly straight border looks like. And so we can do any random generation, that's fine. Watch these borders very carefully. Look at that. Look at how they're basically perfect on the mini-map. Now the formation of this octagon is kind of a hard-coded feature. You can't really undo that. But let's start making the borders very, very jagged here. So let's put it down to 0, and we'll show the other end of the spectrum. In theory, 0 should ignore that entirely, which means that these player lands are going to grow from outside of their constrained circle. They're going to grow out, and they're going to occupy the entire map, which is not what we want. Because we do not want a big open clearing like this, because if we did, we wouldn't be doing it this way. We would just have the base terrain be grass. Okay, but what happens if we have a border fuzziness of 1, for instance? Even a small amount of border fuzziness now. We get very close to 0, but not quite there. So as you can see, we now have some pretty jagged forests back here. Okay, and that could be kind of fun. That could be a lot of fun. Maybe we don't quite want it that jagged, but this gives you a good idea. So the next step is to sort of get that jaggedness where we want it. Let's try 2. 2 should be a little bit cleaner. Basically what that's going to do is you adjust the borders and the border fuzziness to sort of be where you want them to be. And you can already see that this is significantly better. So he can kind of experiment around with that. That's fine. Now you're going to say, but Tech Chariot, Socotra doesn't just have forest going back here. What about the water? Don't worry. We will do the water. We're going to do the water next, actually. So now we're just going to create a land. I'm trying to think. I don't think it, in particular, maybe necessarily has to be anywhere. But we're gonna create 4 of these lands for good measure. And we're going to do 1 in each corner. And each of these lands is going to be special beach terrain. So, all right, just follow me here. So we'll have L, which we've defined up here. Number 32, we've defined that as create land. Okay. And the terrain type is going to be DLC wet beach. Because it's Mexico and it's a wet place. Well, most of it. I guess there's some desert in Mexico too. We can ask FuNes about that, or he can just change it to whatever he wants, because it's technically not any of our business. But for the purposes of demonstration, the beach shall be wet. And then we're going to do land position. And this land is going to be at 1, 1. And this land is going to be zone 1. And the land percent we're going to leave out, because by default that will be 100%. Okay? And then we're going to give this an other zone avoidance distance. And we'll give this another zone avoidance distance by, let's say, 20. So basically what that means is it's going to go to position 1, 1, which is right here, okay? And it's going to put some beach down. And then it's going to check to say, okay, how much beach do you want? And when it sees that we haven't specified an amount of beach, it'll say, all right, fine, we'll try to cover the entire map with beach. And we'll do so within the parameters that you provide. So it will go off and it will cover everything in beach, except it will avoid other zones, which these player lands are, by 20 tiles. So now we should be able to hit generate, and we'll end up with beach outside of these trees, avoiding these player lands by 20 tiles. So that's the objective here. Okay, so as you can see, it's avoiding these player lands by 20 tiles. It doesn't look exactly perfectly circular, and I think it might be a little bit too much. So maybe we reduce that to, let's say, 10 tiles. He can make that whatever he wants. Now we're going to go into terrain generation here, and we're going to say create terrain, and we're going to create water. Why does it keep trying to correct my, there we go. All right, and then we're going to do that, tab that in, and our base terrain is going to be DLC wet beach, and then our space into other terrain types is going to be 1, and our land percent is going to be 100. And we're going to have number of clumps, we're going to do like probably 4 is all that we need. And we're basically going to turn that water into, or that beach into water. Okay, something like this, except it did not work. Oh, we need 2 R's in base terrain. So there we go. We got an island of Socotra here. We've got ourselves a wet beach. We could, I don't necessarily know that you have to do it this way, but I think that this is a decent start. So the point is that it can be made very simply, right? This is less than 40 lines of code right here, and you wouldn't need that many more to add villagers, add scouts. It's kind of an organic shape to it as well. Just thinking if there is a way to, yeah, I guess it's fine. You can sort of derive how far away from the edge of the map this is going to be. So I don't think it's too big of a deal. If you want this shape to be a little bit more regular, like ordinary Socotra, then you can reduce the border fuzziness. And sure, it'll maybe change these pockets up a little bit, but I think that could be okay. You could probably work with that just fine. You might be able to put a land in the center of the map here instead, and then you could tell it to elevate that, because elevation is going to avoid the player lands, the origin of the player lands, by I think only about 7 tiles or so, 7 to 9 tiles, and that could still be a little bit too close. So all right, I'll tell you what. Let's see if we can get a hill zone in the middle without messing with that too much. So for the hills, I don't think that we want to actually use borders for that hill. I think that could be kind of confusing. We could give it a try, actually. But we're going to create a land here, and this is going to be our elevation zone, okay? This is going to be the zone that we elevate. And we're going to copy a lot of this here. We're going to give it land position 50-50, so it's in the center of the map. And we'll call it zone 2, although I don't necessarily know that that's needed, so we'll just delete it. It does not need another zone avoidance. And maybe it tries to grow everywhere. The terrain type for this is going to be dirt, just so that we can see it easily. And this is going to be the area that we target with hills. That's why we're making it. And then we're going to copy this over. So neither of these have an other zone avoidance, so they should blend. It's this one that has an other zone avoidance distance. All right, and instead of 25, we're going to do something like 40. Now, all of these can be changed according to the map size. So if there's like, you could set up a conditional where there are different sizes for different maps if you find that that's the most appropriate. And let's test that. Okay, so here we are. We've got this land in the middle. I think FuNeS knows how to do this actually, because we saw him do something like that earlier. We haven't specified a border fuzziness for it at all. We could reduce the base size of these town centers here. Maybe make it like 8. See how that improves it. We could boost the base size of this, which I think is 3 by default. We could boost the base size of this. Base size is always a tricky parameter. That's the one that you're going to have to scale the most according to map size. Because if base sizes are too large, they're basically forming perfect rectangles. And if stuff is too close together, those rectangles will intersect and it'll look hideous. So this should improve the uniformity of this land right here. So we'll keep that seed and we'll generate it again. Okay, and as you can see, it's a little bit more uniform, but we've got a little bit of forest here. No doubt coming from the fact that these two lands are not quite stitching together properly. So I think that we need to remove these border arguments here and just give it a number of tiles. Or rather a land percent, actually. Land percent will be a little bit easier to work with. Maybe we give it 30% of the total map it tries to fill. And then if we want to make it more circular, then you just boost the base size for it. So let's boost the base size for this just a little bit more. Maybe make it like 12. Again, you might have to go in and do a conditional for that. Okay, so now we've got this different terrain in the center. It's just dirt, right? And that's so that we can see it easily, and maybe this is the area that we want to elevate. Okay, that's no problem then. Coming down here to elevation generation, and we will create elevation 7, and we're going to go terrain type dirt, number of tiles. Let's say that we want to make that 300 tiles, and number of clumps, say that we make that 10. And then we're going to enable balanced elevation, because you always want to enable that. And then we can there's scaling arguments that we could put in here too. Set scale by groups, I think it is. Scales the number of tiles to map size. And I believe that this is in the elevation section. Yeah. So where is it? Set scale by groups. So we'll copy that, and we'll finally include that here. So this is less than 50 lines of code. We've already got a very simple Socotra style map here. Now, it has not elevated that. Why not? It's because we have the wrong argument here. Maybe we need base terrain. Let's check. Yeah, we need base terrain. So not terrain type, but base terrain. Just like that. Then we hit go. All right. So there we go. We got some elevation appearing in here. And the elevation only targets this area because this is the only stuff that's dirt right now. But we could always come in later in terrain generation and we could copy that and we could say create terrain grass 2, base terrain dirt, and then get rid of that. Give it 4 clumps. It's taking up 100% of the land. And then when we hit go, it'll have converted this all back into grass 2. So that you can't tell that this actually was ever dirt at any one point in time. You just know that the hills are in a spot where it's not like unfair to the players. Like if you have a hill that's too close to your town center and somebody gets a mangonel on it, that can be bad news. So we definitely do not want to allow that. So anyway, and of course we could do stuff like we could create object villager. Min distance to players. Min distance to players like 5. Max distance to players 6. Get rid of find closest. So we should confirm that. And you don't need to do the 3 villagers. You can just say villager and it'll automatically do 3. Okay, so there you go. Villagers. Now these villagers are going to avoid this neutral land as well, so just be careful about that. Player assigned resources will avoid neutral lands. And then we could do the scout, right? By copying this. And I bet we could get this whole thing, you know, to be less than 150 lines of code. Maybe even 100 lines of code. So scout, and then, you know, maybe 6 to 7. And maybe we give these guys a min distance, group placement of 3, so the scout has to avoid them by 3. Everything else will avoid them by 3 as well. So just bear that in mind. It could make it difficult to spawn resources. But if you want the sheep to be close by, you could spawn the sheep first, actually. But there you go. A very simple Socotra style map with the raggedy old forests here. You could still mess with that. You could still add other forests and such. There's really a lot of good stuff that you could do to it. Could do with this. I like this though. I think this has character. I mean, who cares if this doesn't look pretty out here? It's supposed to be a natural a natural form, right? So it doesn't really matter too much in my book. If you wanted, the big disadvantage to this that I can think about is if you wanted to have neutral islands with elevation out here, that could be a little bit trickier, but we still could make that happen. I just have to think about it for a little bit more, and I don't think it would require any special tools to make, but again, I'd have to think about it. But certainly, at the very least, this is already basically reproducing what Socotra is good for. Now, another trick that you might be interested in is you might not actually not want this elevation at all. And this is something that we thought about for a similar map for Arena that I made where we added elevation, is instead of having hills, we actually had little pits in the middle. So maybe this is a swampy rainforest, right? And you don't want a lot of hills, you just kind of want a swampy area. So we could change this base elevation, and we could do, yeah, let's come down here. Let's do this base elevation of 1, and we'll leave this to have a base elevation of 0, and I guess we could leave this to have base elevation of 0 as well. It feels kind of weird for me for the ocean to be above the swamp. That doesn't really make much sense. So instead of this being DLC wet beach though, we're going to change this to non-navigable wet beach. And I think non-navigable wet beach is 81. So we will define that accordingly. 81. I guess we'll find out. And then we'll create terrain DLC wet beach from non-navigable wet beach, and space and other terrain types will be 1 in that case, and then we will create water on top of that wet beach. So basically this will give us a little bit of space. Water. So we'll cut that out. And paste that there. And that's another space. Okay, and you know, it's a little bit more involved than that, but for fast and dirty purposes, there it is. And then maybe in the elevation generation section, instead of creating elevation 7, we could go up to like elevation 2, and that could be kind of like a little swampy area. Or maybe it's a little higher, maybe it's a little bit lower. Okay, and instead of grass 2, we could set like, well, let's make sure that this is working properly first. Okay, well, no, not quite. Looks like we had gravel beach here instead. The gravel beach does not look too bad though. But as you can see, I believe it's elevated properly. It's hard for me to see. I don't think so though. So you got the player lands, and then you kind of have this swampy area below it. And that could be a little bit more interesting, I think, than somebody necessarily getting a hill bonus over your town center. Maybe it's 80. Or 79. I know it's one of those up there. Instead of guessing, let's just pull it up. Let's just pull it up. I got a spreadsheet with all the different terrains in it. So let's see. Oh yeah, it was 80. That was my next guess. All right. So we'll make it 80 here. And okay, and then you know what? We're gonna actually do height limits 0, 0. 0. Space and other terrain types 1. And then we're gonna do set flat terrain only. And I think that'll look a lot better. Wait a second. Are we generating this at elevation 1? No. Player lands are being generated at elevation 1. It looks so flush. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's just an illusion. If I delete these, it should be elevated above it by 1, but it looks like it's just flat. Oh, you know what? It's because the elevation changes out here. Yeah, look at that. Oh, then that's perfectly fine. Yeah, that's fine. We could even go in and we could like elevate the jungle if we wanted to. Just for the sake of everything being consistent then. Maybe that's what we do. So we come over here and we copy this and we say create elevation 1 and we target the jungle. Number of tiles, let's make it 10,000. Number of clumps, we'll make it 9320, which is the maximum. Set scale by groups, enable balanced elevation. So now we'll really have this, the outer rim of this island be elevated over the ocean, which is what we want. Okay, yeah, there we go. That's much better. That is better. Okay, and now we could even put like, it doesn't have to be DLC Bogland, but you know, we could put some of that in there if we wanted to. More specifically, we could come over here now that this is all grass terrain, right? And we could say create terrain DLC Bogland, and our base terrain could be grass too. Land percent 100, number of clumps 9320, and we'll set scale by groups. And we'll do terrain mask 1. So it looks kind of boggy, but it's not bogland. Okay. Oh, height limits. I remember what I was going to do. Height limits will be from 0 to 1. So there we go. So now we kind of have like a swampy looking area in here. Ah, shoot. We can't do 0 to 1. We got to do 0 to 0. My bad. Otherwise, the whole thing will look like swamp, except for a very small amount of it. Explains why we had so much. Okay, there you go. So it looks kind of swampy in here. Okay? Just like a good jungle. And you could maybe do your own trees, maybe jungle patches on this area in the middle. You could tell it to avoid, shoot, you know, let's do that. I feel like Bob Ross, you know, he's constantly coming up with things that he wants to add to his painting. He says, shoot, I know we're out of time, but let's do this for fun anyway. So we will create terrain, maybe we'll do a different type of terrain. Maybe we'll do DLC Rainforest here. Now, the reason that I'm doing DLC Rainforest is because I'm going to tell this terrain to avoid other terrain types, which means that it will avoid jungle. If I did jungle directly, then it would not avoid this properly. So let's come in here and we're going to put it on grass 2. We want it to maybe take up 10% of the total surface area. Number of clumps is going to be, let's say, 20. And set scale by groups, that's fine. No height limits here. No terrain mask at all. And we're going to do spacing other terrain types of maybe like 8. And then we're also going to do set avoid player start areas by 14. So this will tell it to avoid the origin of the player lands by 14 tiles, and it'll tell it to avoid the jungle by 8 tiles. So now when we hit generate, we're going to have just random forest patches scattered across the map. Just like that, except we have way too much. And 10% is way too big. But as you can see, it is properly respecting the avoidance to the jungle, and it's respecting the avoidance to the town centers. So we could probably increase town center avoidance a little bit more. Maybe we increase it to more like 20. And then we're going to just decrease this to like 2%. Let's see if that gets us a little bit closer to where we want to be. And again, all of these values can be scaled according to map size. So there you go. You've got some jungles in the middle. Doesn't have to be like this though. It looks, I think that's a little too thick. So we could go land percent 1%. And if 1% is too much, you could even still do number of tiles argument. And you could scale the number of tiles. So we just got swampy area. So we'll come back here, and maybe we will reduce the number of clumps to like, I don't know, 8. So what if you look at this and you say, you know, that's still too much forest. I do not want that much forest. In the middle of my map here, I appreciate the fact that it is avoiding my player starting areas, but I just want less of it. We can do that. To do that, all we got to do is come over here to where land percent is, and we see that we're at 1% of the land. Now this gets a little bit tricky, so we need to make sure that we're paying attention. So if we go over here to sizes, see map sizes? So the number of tiles in a tiny map is 120 by 120. So the total tiles is 14,400. So 1% of that is going to be 144. So if we wanted to do a half of a percent, we have to divide 144 by 2, and we'll get 72, right? And we do it for each of these. So we do if tiny map, else if small map, else if medium map, else if large map, else if huge map, else if gigantic map, and if. Okay, so we got all the different conditionals in here. Remember, it's not what you select in the lobby, but rather this is its idea of like this is the terminology that you have to use that RMS will recognize. So for tiny, we need 72. For small, we need 153. No, 103. Sorry. Doesn't have to be exactly perfect, right? Nobody's going to go in and count the trees. So we need 141 for this one. Next one is 141. Okay. Large is we need 100. No, we need 200, sorry. Huge, we need 242. And gigantic, we need 576 divided by 2 is 250 plus approximately 35, so we need like 280-ish approximately. Okay, let's do that. Okay, so now keeping the same seed, we'll hit generate, and we are at the large map size, so if we wanted to just test it, we only needed to put one number in. But as you can see, what did we mess up here? Oh, yeah, we didn't actually specify number of tiles. Oops. Here we go. Okay. Set scale by groups. Let's make this a little easier for us to read. looks right. Let's see. Oh shoot, that's number of... It's for land generation. Terrain generation. Land percent. It's exclusive with the number of tiles. The default is 122 tiles on a tiny map. If the number of clumps is specified, this value is divided equally among the clumps. What happens if I remove that? So if we go back to land percent, land percent 1, we save it. We get this distribution of forests. So let's just check my math on large again. So see map sizes. Okay, so we are on the large, which is huge. The total number of tiles is 48,400. So 1% of that is going to be 484 tiles. So 0.5% is going to be 240 something. Okay, so that we should have 240 in here somewhere, and that's indeed what we have. And we got the terminology right, huge map. Let's take a look at the other sizes. Let's generate this one again. Did we not save it? Oh, okay, it's overwriting it. Need to get rid of land percent. Hit generate. And it's just... Oh, maybe we've got too few clumps. Maybe it's really just that simple. Maybe we need to like do 20 clumps. Can't really see how the number of clumps would really affect it too much, but 40 clumps. I don't know. So we'll leave this commented out for now, I guess. I don't know why it's not working, and I'm not going to figure it out now. So 1% with 40 of these clumps will reduce the space in other terrain types by like to 4 perhaps, to give it a little bit more area to spread that out, as well as more clumps made available. That's not too much better, huh? It really is it's really struggling. So we reduce this number of clumps to 20, And then we avoid player start areas by 16. Kind of fine tune this. All right, I don't think that's too offensive. It's too bad. It's not perfectly open, but you guys get the idea. To figure out exactly why I can't seem to specify a smaller number of tiles. I mean, I could just outright go in and start messing with these numbers and making them much smaller. I guess I'll try cutting these by a quarter, just because I'm not fully satisfied. So we'll cut this by a quarter, so half of this is, a quarter of that is 18, 25, and this is going to be 43-ish, something like that. No, 30, 33-ish. This is going to be 50. This is going to be 60. And let's say that, let's just make that 70. Okay, something kind of similar actually. We might come in here now and reduce the number of clumps to maybe like 12. I still don't know why my math wasn't working properly. I may turn that to 8. Can get rid of this land percent. I want to leave this scaling in as a good example, I think. Yeah, that's fine. That's a little bit better. But he could do whatever he wants with it. He could, he could come in and he could play around with maybe unbuildable rock terrain. If he wants any tricks or advice on how to do that, or this bogland, he could actually make real bogland so it's actually unbuildable. No, there's a lot of different variations you can do with it. You could come out here and he can make little islands, right? Maybe players start with a villager on the island. I don't know. You could go in and you could put walls in here, and the walls would not care about this neutral land in the middle, which would be nice. And because this neutral land is mostly below elevation, you don't have to worry about castle drops having extra damage. But anyway, so that's a good template. It's been a little bit longer than I wanted to, messing with like the scaling. It's always something stupid, like the scaling of these trees in the middle. Probably just a simple math error that I haven't realized, because I can't see chat. Nobody can correct me about it. But if we wanted to, make this distance less, we could come in here and we could change this other zone avoidance distance for this land. Where is it? To like 6. Make it faster, easier to chop to. You could even come in afterward and you could turn jungle into grassland if you wanted, using terrains. So there's all kinds of wonderful options here. It's just a fun concept, and I'm looking forward to seeing what FuNES does with it. So I'll provide him with this script as kind of like a baseline. It's only we're barely over 100 lines of code here. He can play with it, make it his own, do what he wants with it. But for those of you that are wondering, this is how you get the basic Socotra setup. There might be other ways to do it, but I think this is a pretty good way of doing it. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Huge thanks to FuNES for coming and sharing his work. And we really hope that we can help him out and that he doesn't give up. And we'll see what we can do about helping to provide him the opportunity to test too. If he wants to upload his script to our community's repository so the guys can find it easily and test it, that's all good stuff as far as I'm concerned. So here we are. We've been at this for about an hour and 40 minutes. A little bit late, but I think it was a good episode today. We had a good conversation with FuNes about some of his Socotra aspirations, and we made a very basic Socotra map, which I think is a great deal of fun. And I'm excited to see where he goes from here. So thanks everybody for joining. Thank you, FuNes, for your time, and we'll catch you guys next time.